is the first year that we put our kids in all Spanish schools and wanted to give an update on how that was going. So we have one kindergartner that he's basically in school. He's only learning counting and letters in Spanish, and they're not moving as quickly as I would like. So I actually end up teaching him after school a little bit each day in both English and Spanish. I try to make the English more of like workbooks and the Spanish a little more of like videos on YouTube or on Netflix. So there's some shows that my child is being really silly right now. You can probably hear him. So yeah, like, I mean, when they're young, like, I try to keep it fun, but you have to keep up because you don't want them falling behind. You don't want them to have to, repeat kindergarten. There are things that they have to learn, and so I have the list of all the things that he's expected to know by the end of the year. So counting to 20 and knowing his tens up to 100, writing his first and last name, a little bit of addition and subtraction, knowing all the letters, what sounds they make. Writing all the letters, writing all the numbers. So yeah, he gets 100% Spanish. Well, he has an English class and this is at public school. He has an English class, I think, about once a day. But then everything else is in Spanish. And then my older child, he's older. I'll let him talk. But you'll notice that his grammar isn't perfect. But he has a lot more confidence. He has a lot more fun with it. He's being more social. Like, we take him to the playground and he runs up to kids and talks to them in Spanish. And maybe they think he talks like a 3-year-old, but at least, like, he can communicate. And so, like, learning Spanish through school when the curriculum is taught in Spanish is a lot different from learning Spanish in like a Spanish as a second language course. When you learn a language as a second language, there's last year my older one was taking sort of a Spanish as a second language course through his school, because he was going to an English-speaking school here in Puerto Rico. And he was learning things like fruits and vegetables, animals, how old are you, what's your name, like, even like adults, the things that we learn when we take a course, or things like, what are your interests, talk about your family, talk about your pets, and then maybe you move on to something like directions or ordering from a menu or shopping at a grocery store. But I found personally that even after like two college level Spanish courses, when I tried to go to another country to use it, I was so confused. But I guess that's a whole other topic. But yeah, like, he is learning things that kids in his grade are supposed to learn. He's learning science, he's learning math, he's learning social studies, he's learning all that stuff in Spanish. So it's a little harder for him than his classmates, because he's the only one in his class that doesn't have a native Spanish speaker as a parent. He's the only one in his class that started reading in English before he started reading in Spanish. And so, like, things like a spelling quiz, it's a lot harder for him. Everyone else is already familiar with the word. They've said it a million times. They've heard their parents say it. They can sound it out, and they have an easier time spelling it. Spanish is very phonetic. It's much more consistent when it comes to spelling words. When you hear it, like, their grammar rules are insane, but when it comes to spelling out a word that you hear, it's much easier in Spanish than it is in English. There's English has a lot more exceptions to the rules, but he has to learn like what they mean, like how to use it in a sentence, in addition to learning how to pronounce it and spell it. But his English vocabulary is improving too, because there's a lot of Spanish words that there's kind of a like more uppity version of it in English, like to allow in Spanish, permitir. You know, like you don't usually say like, I'm not going to permit you to run in the halls. You don't usually talk like that, but like that's how you would say it in Spanish. Permitir. Or like another one of his spelling words this week is perseguir. So I'm like, oh, like that sounds like the word pursue. Well, I'm rambling, but anyways, he is passing all of his courses, but he's struggling in Spanish, and then he's not interested in social studies, so he's struggling to like complete all of his assignments in social studies. Same for religion, he just doesn't really like it. But when it comes to math and science, the language hasn't prevented him from getting good grades. But here's what I promised with him speaking a bit.
Y yo está hablando español ahora porque es aprendiendo español con muchos libros y actividades y juegos. Hay mucho a hacer para aprender en mi escuela. Yo quiero aprender más español. Yo sabes los digitales, las letras, muchos números, los básicos y más. Hay muchas palabras que sabe. Yo sabe pájaro.
Yo sé pájaro.
Yo sé pájaro, yo sé manzana, yo sé caballo. Yo sé vaca. Yo sé perro.
Sí. Let's see. How do you say forest fire?
Incendio forestal.
How do you say drought?
Sequía.
How do you say gloves?
Guantes.
That was from a quiz from a long time ago. You remembered it?
Yes.
Okay. How do you say frame?
Marco.
How do you spell Marco?
M-A-R-C-O. Marco.
Can you spell, this is a hard one,
What?
perseguir?
P-E-R-S-E-G-U-I-R.
That was right. Oh my goodness. Thank you for your help, Graham.
Thank you. Gracias.
Adios.
Adios.